Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so the Lakers lost game one. we expected to have trouble with the Thunder, to say the least. Luka is not expected to return to like game 4 at the earliest, which means that in my opinion we'd have to win 1 or 2 games to even make that worth it to him. We're talking about a hamstring injury. In the world of snapped Achilles, smart money, just wait till next season. I know he spent probably a massive fortune on his treatment in Spain. From what I understand, he had 4 different treatments. So I'm sure that cost him probably $1 million or something like that. So I know it was worth it, but just the same, that wasn't wasted money, even if he doesn't play anymore this season, because he'll be able to get a real start on his off-season conditioning, which is obviously very important for him. And what we expect his career arc to be, he has to have a good offseason. So expediting the process of healing this injury is good either way for what we're overall asking of Luka. Austin Reeves, I mean, when you're coming back from injury, man, especially when you're coming back early, you're going to struggle. And when you have certain weaknesses that are specifically catering to the strengths of the team you're going against, that's even worse. And this is what I said about him coming back against the Rockets. Him coming against the Thunder, yeah, man, he's going to struggle. He was going to struggle if he wasn't coming back from injury, because that's just how that goes. But against the Thunder, when you are, it's not even reasonable to think that he was going to play well. I don't expect him to play well at all in this series. And that's a problem going forward, because the Lakers are going to have to acquire pieces that help hide Austin's flaws while simultaneously helping hide Luka's flaws, and that's going to be very difficult. It's not easy to find that piece, and there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get that in the draft, and even if you do, it's no guarantee coach is going to play that player next season. So I hear that Tari Eason is who the Lakers are looking at. Tari Eason, I can't trust to stay healthy, man. I've been watching him off and on for several seasons now. He don't last but 3 weeks at a time, and you gotta wait for him to come back from injury. It's an everyday thing with him. So I'd love to have him just as an addition, but if we think that's gonna solve the problem, nah. And then Vanderbilt, good news on Vando. Seems like the injury isn't gonna even keep him out for the rest of the series, which is like impossible to me, looking at how that went. But apparently all they had to do was snap the thing back in place, and he was good to go. So no surgery was needed, and because it was a pinky finger on the off-ball hand, they feel good about him being able to come back. I don't, to be honest with you, because if you start getting to conversations about people hitting the hand again, knowing that it's injured, catching the ball handling issues against ridiculously strong pressure, once again, it's like, he becomes somewhat of a liability. I personally thought he was already a liability, but that's just my take on Vanderbilt's game as a whole. I just don't think much of Vanderbilt these days as a basketball player. I really don't. I'm out. So I think that he could help us in this series, though. If ever there was a series he could help you in, it's when you got to try to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But at the same time, trying to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not the easiest thing in the world, regardless of what type of defender you have. So it becomes a conversation of how do you keep enough of what you need on the floor defensively while garnering enough offense without Luka, with Austin seemingly not being able to do that. And the answer is, I don't know that you can. That's as simple as that. I don't know that you can. This is the first game in many years where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored under 20 points. So the Lakers can give themselves a pat on the back saying we held them to 18 points. No other defense has been able to do that several years. Problem is, we lost by the amount that he made, 18. So you have to essentially keep him scoreless in order to have had a chance at overtime in that game last night. It's just, that's how good the Spurs are. I mean, the Thunder are, but the Spurs are pretty damn good themselves. But that's how good the Thunder are, man. And so that's why I'm like, let's fight. But don't put any money on this, man. My homeboy T that I often mention, he put $50 on the Lakers to win the series. I'd imagine that if he wins this, the payout is maximum. But I mean, if he was listening to me, he wouldn't have probably bet on this series. I think that's burnt money, if I'm being real. But as a competitor and as a diehard Laker fan who's seen a lot of basketball, stranger things have happened. But this would be one of the stranger things, I'll tell you that. So we just got to keep fighting, man. That's it. Try to clean up what we can clean up. Yesterday, I thought we were pretty slow to react. I thought our reaction timing was very slow. One of the mistakes that I said I didn't want to see us make was thinking that what we did against the Rockets is going to be enough against the Thunder. I don't think we did that from a game plan standpoint. I don't think that coaching staff came in thinking they were playing the damn Rockets. But some of our players, I don't think they really were ready for this level of play. And it's unfortunate because that's the deficiency of the roster glaring. It's like the Rockets were a team that couldn't score with a damn. Thunder are the best team in basketball. Some of the same strengths as the Rockets, but none of the Rockets' weaknesses. So it's just like, if you think that your output against the Rockets is enough, if you're not elevating your game, if you're not thinking quicker, if you're not moving faster, if you're not pushing yourself harder, if you're not being even more careful, then you're going to lose. And that's what it is. I thought our starters were okay, really were. But once we got to our bench, it really started showing the problems that this series provides the Lakers. Their team has so much better role players, it's not even funny. They have better role players than any team, but definitely better role players than us because we have a bad bench, cut and dry. We have one of the worst benches in the NBA. So, of course, they're going to struggle. And they did. I thought some of our guys were highly outclassed. And that's exactly what you would expect. So, it's a bit frustrating as a Laker fan. We're used to dominating and getting this far. You want to have a chance. We're not used to not having a chance, but with Luka not out there, it's just not reasonable. It's not reasonable. We can have confidence and we can hold true, but we need a lot of things outside of our control to fall in our favor. And when you're going up against the best team in basketball, you can't count on that at all, obviously. So to assume that we just doing our best is going to win us this series is to kind of discredit what they actually are, what they bring to the table. And they should still bleed us if we do our best, because that's what being excellent is about. And that's exactly what their franchise has done, put together in a very excellent situation, a very excellent band of players and coaching staff. And you have to play perfect ball to even compete with them, let alone beat them. You need them to kind of take a night off while you play perfect ball. Those two things in tandem should beat them. And so that's just really what it is. I don't doubt that even without J-Dub, they're still better than every team in this league, man. I really believe that wholeheartedly. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have some bad matchups out there, because the Spurs, for them, are a bad matchup. And the Spurs had their number in the regular season, and wouldn't it shock me at all if the Spurs beat them? It wouldn't shock me at all. But that's not the Lakers. The Lakers don't have that type of roster. We don't have the Spur roster. We don't have that 7'5" shot blocking monster, 3-point shooting not monster. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? If we had that piece, then yeah, we're in a different space. But without that, coupled with the fact that they got players that play on both sides of the floor, specialize in point and attack defense, stuff like that, depth. San Antonio has really benefited greatly from good decision making and tanking, good fortune, and they're back in action. It's time for them to be at the top of the West along with the Thunder. It's just what time it is, man, and we're the next team up. Fortunately enough, we've done enough to make ourselves that good. The fortunate nature of the Luka trade that just probably should have never happened, but it puts us in a position to be as good as we are, and we are thankful for that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're on the level with the team at the top of the league. So that's just what it is. But I will say this, Luka gives you hope, man. A healthy Luka gives you hope. You know, Austin Reeves, do I ever think Austin is going to be a part of a team that beats Oklahoma City Thunder? I was listening to a podcast this morning. They were talking Lakers, and they were essentially saying they expect Austin to struggle against the Thunder no matter what. Any year, so long as they're constructed this way, he is just not going to play well against teams like that. And in order to get past the Thunder, you got to play well. In order to get the championship, you got to get past the Thunder. Or the Spurs, who also are going to make Austin go through hell with their point of attack defenders and speed and athleticism. I like Austin if I can put somebody super athletic and defensive next to him in that backcourt. That's awesome. That's going to work. I like Luka in that situation too. If I got both of them together, then I need a trio of front court, forward, and center players that are utterly devastating defensively and good enough to hit open shots offensively. I need all of those things. And that's the problem the Lakers have run into. DeAndre Ayton has been a real good overall piece for us. I don't hate what he's brought to the table. He's had some big nights. Been very pleased with his play lately in these playoffs. But we practically need him to be like Chet Holmgren. You know what I'm saying? Shot blocking wise, and length wise, and skill set wise. We practically need Chet Holmgren right now. You know what I mean? Like literally, we need that type of piece. And then LeBron James, of course, you can always use LeBron James. He ain't never gonna be part of the problem. But like that small forward position, who we running out there? Right now, we counting on who? Is it Rui? That's not the right piece. I love Rui as it pertains to hitting shots, but his basketball IQ is not where it needs to be. His recognition, timing, and things like that, it's not. He's not in the upper tier with that. He's a specialist when it comes to efficiency shooting. Love that piece. Wish players who did the things that he doesn't do could shoot like him, so you'd have the perfect player. But unfortunately, you have to live with all his slowness and all this different stuff. His non-rebounding, despite being big. You know, it's just a lot that comes with Rui. You know, it's flawed, man. He's a flawed basketball player with a special gift, you know? And when he's hitting shots, he's helping you out-execute other teams. And so it masks a lot of the problems. You know what I mean? He's going to hit every damn thing. That's like, as I've said, I wish players that couldn't do what he, you know, I wish people who could do all the stuff that we need him to do could shoot as well as him, right? Because a lot of times you get players that can do all types of stuff, but then they're breaking the same shots that Rui's taking and making. So you live what you can live with. What Rui needs around him is lightning speed players, a backcourt of two-way talented players that can create for him and stuff like that. Players that can live with his deficiencies, rim protection that's quick, twitchy, and stuff like that. He needs that stuff, not a backcourt tandem of non-athletic, you know, hyperactive scorers that don't defend, and a center that's, you know, not necessarily known for his rim protection. These are just not the right pieces for each other. They're not the right pieces for one another, man. They all need different things that one another don't provide. That's what it really comes down to. So the Lakers got to try to find a way to swap out what they don't need with what they do need. Overall boost their talent level on their bench so that they can have more depth. And then they can run out there with teams like Oklahoma and try to, you know, win. But this is not a vision that is meant to kind of compete for championships. This is a vision of players. We're in the middle of our process of building something. We're picking up stuff where we can. Ayton came out of nowhere. We were able to get him. That wasn't necessarily the vision. It's beggars can't be choosy type of situation. You're thankful that you got a guy like that, but that's not the vision of the team. You know, Vanderbilt came in a trade that, you know, we had to make to get rid of Russell Westbrook. And even that wasn't necessarily the greatest trade because we had to give up a pick to do it. That pick could have very easily been a wing that we need right now or a center with some rim protection. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff that the Lakers have done and why our team only goes about 9 deep. And bringing in Luka Doncic kind of brings you back to a space where you're respectable because he's worth 10 times what you paid for him. But that's not realized on the basketball floor as it pertains to depth in any way. Now, in some nightmarish world, you could trade Luka Doncic for halfway decent pieces that provide you a plethora of depth, and your team could go 12 deep, but you wouldn't have no superstars. It'd still probably not be that great. So it's a lot of different things that the Lakers can do because of the presence of Luka Doncic on their team. But unless they're willing to liquidate what he's worth, which nobody is, it's not going to really show up in anything other than him and a bunch of other stuff that you can scrounge together. And this brings us back to Austin Reaves. We've waited too late at this point because Austin's either a free agent to sign with us or walking for nothing. So it's too late to say, oh, we could trade Austin. No, you can't. If he decides to do a sign and trade deal, I don't know how that benefits him. And why the hell would you want to do that at this point? The Lakers got to do is find that 3 and that 5 that can be exactly what they need. 3 and a 5 that can be exactly what they need, and ask LeBron James to keep playing. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what the Lakers need. I personally think LeBron James is not even thinking about retirement right now. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't even think he's considering retirement right now. I think it's a foregone conclusion he's coming back next year. I think he feels like we do. He's in the middle of something as it pertains to the Lakers. I really don't genuinely think that he is deterred from continuing to play ball when his body's reacted so well to the newfound role. You know what I mean? We're asking him to kind of do some things that don't require him to shoot as much, but kind of exploit his athleticism and his fast break ability. Those are things that are very comfortable for LeBron James, even at this stage in his career. You know, so it's like, if we were still asking him to be the number 1 guy or the number 2 guy, that would be a long uphill battle for his body. But asking him to be the 3rd piece in this kind of quasi-Banshee-like role, I think it's a fun role that extends his career and extends what your projection for his body can do. And so I don't think he's done. I don't think he's done at all. I'd be very, very surprised at this stage if he retired at the end of the season. I would be floored in absolute and utter shock. I don't think he's even considering that. I think the way that his body's reacting to these playoffs, he looked as good as he's looked in years yesterday. I don't see a purpose to quit unless he's just tired of the grind, and I don't see any reason why he would be with how this season has gone for the Lakers. We're close. If you ask me, we're close to being a contender. You know, very close. This is going to be year 3 for JJ. He's made some strides in the right direction. You know, I thought he really did a good job of making us forget about last year's playoff debacle by out-scheming the Rockets in the way that he did. So, you know, and that's his guy, so he got to feel good about the coaching situation. We got new ownership that has more money. They're hiring new infrastructure people that likely are more than willing to bring the Lakers what they need to be a better functioning organization going forward. So the infrastructure is here. His kid is on the team, starting to get minutes. And that probably, in some weird way, is best case scenario, because there was a world where Bronny doesn't play very much. And Bronny's starting to be a part of this thing. And likely will have a role on this team that's bigger next year. And then we got Luka Doncic, which I know he wasn't thrilled when we first made the move. But now it's shifted him to have a role that I think probably fits him better than the role he had with AD. And so it's like, and you get a chance to see Luka up close, you start realizing how easy he makes offense, how easy life comes, how leads come your way at seemingly little to no effort out of him, because Luka's so damn gifted. You know, it's just one of those situations where you can look at LeBron and you say, man, you gotta feel like you got an easy path to another NBA Finals run somewhere within the next 3 years. And if you feel like you could play another 3 years, why wouldn't you do that, you know? And so you gotta look at it like this. If Luka was out there, Bron has no reason to believe that he can't compete with the Thunder right now. You give him an extra 35 points added to what we were doing last night, and suddenly we win yesterday's game. You gotta look at it like that if you're Bron. You know, he's done a lot more with a whole lot less. And so as long as his body's not hurting in the offseason in some weird way, sciatica starts acting up again, I don't see any path to him retiring. I think he was more likely to retire last season than he was this season. I don't even think he's looking at it. I feel like I have a good feel for this type of thing for some reason. I never met LeBron in my life, but I feel like I got a great feel for how the temperament is around him as it pertains to just when I think it's likely he's thinking he's unhappy or likely he's very happy or what have you. I feel like he's fairly pleased with how things are going. We got to the second round. I think that exceeded probably some people's expectations, man. And so if the Lakers are having him back, I'm pretty sure he'll sign back. Now the question is, does he get that no trade clause, and will he be fine if they don't give it to him? Because that could change a lot as it pertains to whether or not he comes back next season. Is he going to be fine with not getting a no trade clause? Because if I'm the new Laker organization, I probably don't want to give him that. The new front office probably, I don't know. He's earned that. I would tell the Laker front office that at this point, you need him more than you needed him in the past years. He's more, it just sounds strange, but he's a more important piece right now to us than he was previously. Because the stakes are higher. We expect to win. And he plays such a role that is so difficult to try to duplicate with free agency in this offseason. He does so many different things for your team right now that need to be around Luka Doncic, that it would behoove the Lakers to see him as a priority just to keep the cohesiveness of your basketball team in order. We have a lack of athleticism, and he's one of the most athletic players on our team. And I don't know where you're going to duplicate what he is. If anything, you should be dreading him retiring right now. You should do nothing that makes Luka look around and say, I don't have enough. You should do nothing that makes Luka say, you know what, I'm not really sure if I want to be here. And I don't think that he's looking at LeBron as somebody that he wants to go right now. I don't think so. If anything, if I'm Luka, I'm like, I need Bron. I need Bron. Look how he's carrying the team while I'm gone. I need him. So, that's just my feel on things. I don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes, but my temperament and how I feel as a fan watching all of this, I think Bron's more important right now than he was 2 years ago. Let me be honest with you. And I think that with the way the team is constructed, he affects winning more so now than he did when we had AD. You need his piece to do the things it's doing right now. And I don't know where you're going to find that at. If you think Tari Eason going to be there, you're about to lose your damn mind. You think Aaron Gordon's about to be there, you crazy out your damn mind. And I welcome both of those players. I think they'd be excellent pieces for us, by the way, if we can get both of them. But I don't expect either one of them to stay healthy all year. I ain't counting on those people. You understand what I'm saying? So those are just two players that the Lakers are rumored to have coming in. If I had to choose between one of the two of them, it'd probably be Aaron Gordon, to be honest with you. Even though I usually tend to shy away from the aging guy, Aaron Gordon has turned himself into such a reliable defensive player, big shot maker. He still has enough athleticism. He still has enough size. I think he would really help the team a lot. Tari, I like a lot, young player, but his inconsistencies in health and inconsistency shooting the ball make him the player that I would choose to not bring in if I had to choose between the two of them right now. Even though Tari's younger, I don't think Tari's ceiling is so high that I'm going to give up on what Gordon can do for me right now. Not to mention bringing in Gordon potentially, depending on how Denver moves, cripples Denver. I don't think they can afford to let Gordon move on, especially since Peyton Watson is having some setbacks with his injury and may not necessarily re-sign himself. Although I know it's a team option on there, he may get outpriced for the Denver Nuggets. Whatever the case may be, I think Denver is getting worse and worse by the second, and they need to make some drastic changes. And I would love to see one of our ops just disappear. So that's what I'll say about that. If we can get one of the intricate pieces off of that squad, a guy like Gordon is so important. That would be wonderful for us on multiple fronts. So yeah, man, these things I'm thinking about. And look, you know, as I'm looking at how the struggles are going for Vanderbilt offensively, and I'm looking at, you know, just the overall sentiment surrounding that young fellow's name. I always forget the same names. That's the strange thing about my brain. Jake LaRavia, the issues that Jake LaRavia is just having out there as a Banshee, highly relied upon, but not very reliable, if that makes any sense. I feel like the Lakers maybe should target a player like Dalen Swain in the draft. Now, I know Swain's off-ball shooting is horrific. And until he figures that out, he's going to be almost useless on the offensive end, despite having some very strong on-ball offensive driving game. In fact, he's one of the best players with the ball in his hand driving at the basket in this entire draft. He has a very strong gift for that. His length can be extremely disruptive. And I really believe that he's somebody who, if given an opportunity to have the offense to himself, can go out there and score, get to the line repeatedly. I don't know if we can center our play style around allowing him to play on ball enough for him and his off ball issues to not be a liability for our spacing, because he is a bad shooter off the ball. A pretty decent one for some reason with the ball in his hands, ironically enough. But off the ball, his shot is just flat out broken. And so I wonder, if you do bring him in, will JJ just not play him for Vanderbilt reasons? I could totally see a world where that's a problem. But for the fact that he's a Banshee with some length and some athleticism and some speed laterally and stuff like that, on-ball juice, deflection, length, tools, I wonder if the Lakers should not consider making sure he's a Laker if for some reason he's available at 25. I do think that it's more likely he's not available. I think he'll be gone before 22, to be honest with you. But if he happens to be available, I don't think it wouldn't solve potential issues if you could somehow find a way to work him into the equation. I really think you need that athletic piece, that defensive player on the wing, 6'8", 6'9" player that can fly, get to the line a million times, guard people smaller and bigger than him, that type of stuff. You really need that piece. Now, between me and you, I am enamored with the idea of Morez Johnson in that regard. But I think Morez is more of a traditional 4. Swain is probably more of a 2 and a 3. And we probably need more of a 2 and 3 in that regard. Because you figure you got Braun coming back, but you also got Eleuthero coming in. So I can see a world where we're going to pass on that power forward position, even if we have some pieces in the draft that could be available to us that won't be so bad. You know what I mean? If they can't play the 3, it might be a little bit of a redundancy. So that's the concern I think the Lakers may see in bringing in somebody like Morez Johnson or Jaden Quaintance, or, well, maybe not Quaintance. Quaintance is a different story. But bringing in somebody like Jefferson out of Iowa State. Those guys are 4s. I can see the Lakers taking a guy like Amari Allen, but I don't know if I believe in Amari Allen like that. I think he's more of an average small forward, yo. And I know how bad we can use one and how scarce they are in this draft. But I think homie might be just average. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's particularly great at the stuff that we need him to be great at in order for him to really feel a need. I think in the long run he could be a nice piece, but like more of like the Rui standard, you know, not necessarily that same style, but that's the ceiling. I think it's like that kind of role player. That's okay. I think Swain's ceiling could potentially be higher. Morez, intangibles are probably more useful to this roster. It's a world where not 3 of them are available to you. So this is a lot to think about. I think some would think that the Lakers would use their pick on a center. I think there could be potentially some very intriguing centers available to us. Some of them we'll have to reach on. Some of them probably should fall to the second round in a lot of cases. But, you know, there will be some centers to pick up if we want to use the pick on the center. But I think there's a world where you bring in a center and you still have troubles on your wing. And I think there's a world when you bring in your wing and you have troubles with the center. So that's just the reality of it. You got to pick your poison. Something's going to be without. I think center depth is extremely important for this roster, but we do have a lot of needs. And then there's a world where, although I think it's not likely, there's a world where a guy like Christian Anderson is available. And Christian Anderson is a 6'3", but he has two-way ability and hyper three-point shooting ability. He's a guard, though, so do we really need another guard? I don't know, but a nice defensive guard that can shoot the ball very well and get others involved, those are skills that we really benefit with. When you talk about how well we're doing with Marcus Smart, he's not Marcus Smart, but he does have some defensive ability and he shoots better than Marcus Smart. He ain't as big as Marcus Smart. He ain't Marcus Smart, but you're going to get more efficiency shooting the ball. And if you slap him next to Marcus Smart, your bench is a lot better. So I haven't mocked him many times to the Lakers. I just think that the Lakers have options of need in other positions. But a guy like Christian Anderson, I'm sure JJ would be able to use right away. And I'm sure he would be great once he's a Laker. You probably hate that you didn't pick up other pieces, but he immediately becomes one of your most important pieces. So I'm not ruling out the Lakers just taking the best player available. He might be. At 25, he might be the best player available. So like this is where my head has really been. For those who are following me and wondering, what's Brandon thinking about? Think about the draft, man. Think about the draft. I am thinking the playoffs is cool, yeah, but my head is really in draft mode. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm so certain that the Lakers are going to use a pick, because they can very easily trade the pick. It's very, very likely that they'll consider trading the pick if it can get them the piece that they ultimately want. But especially given the fact that they have a coach that don't play young players. So I'm not saying that I'm certain we're going to use that pick, but I am enamored with the idea that we have it, and I know we don't have it for the next several years, which for a fan like me is devastating, to be honest with you. But just the same, you got to do what you got to do. I think our team, if anything, just needs to find the right pieces. If it happens to be rookies, cool. But if for some reason you bring yourself a rookie that your coach can't use, or you strike out drafting again, and you could have used that piece to fill in a need, you're going to definitely hear hell for it. And with the need to respect our timeline, I really won't rule out any strategy that helps us get where we want to go. Previous years, you would have heard me say never trade the pick. Hell no, absolutely not. But I just think our times have changed when now Luka, being a part of our team, signed on for multiple years. I think it's more responsible for us to do what's best to assure he can contend than it is for us to consider circumstances outside of his betterment. And so that's really what I'm saying to everybody. I think it's so important that we just get what we need. You know what I mean? Not necessarily worrying about how you get it, but more so just that you get it. And what the Lakers definitely need is better Banshees, center depth, and to assure that they can replace whoever is going to be the party. So that's inconclusive at this moment. But if we don't have Rui next year, if he goes and signs with the Heat or something like that, you're going to need that hyperactive, hyper efficient shooter. You're going to need that. Or you're going to miss some shots that you ain't used to missing. And we know how that looks. If you don't bring back Luke Kennard, you're going to need a shooter. You see how important that piece is, especially when he can do other intangible things. You're going to need that piece. If he's bouncing, you're going to need to replace him. And then just, again, honestly, the Lakers just need more reliable pieces. Nick Smith, I hope we can use him in the future. But if not, move on from him. Make him somebody that JJ's going to use. Maxi Kleber, I'm sure he's moving on. Replace him with somebody we can use. Call up Adu Thero into a bigger role next year. I think that's kind of inevitable anyway. But we need to start working him into the equation. He should be one of our main bench pieces next year. Obviously we're keeping Bronny James. That's a no-brainer. That's not even something to consider. He will be a part of the team next year. But like Vanderbilt, You know, Laravia, what are we doing with these guys? Are we keeping them? Re-sign Marcus Smart. That should be of the highest priority. That should be of the highest priority. You can't function without Marcus Smart. You better bring him back. I don't care if he's aging and getting washed or whatever. We need the piece. So bring him back. And yes, he will be aging soon. So we need to respect that. The Marcus Smart he is right now is probably not the Marcus Smart he's going to be 2 summers from now. Consider that in whatever contract you give him. But make sure you bring him back. And then like Austin Reeves, man. You know, is Austin Reeves the piece, man? We all love Austin here. I've been a fan of his from jump. You know, I think he's fantastic. But I really worry about our deficiencies with on-ball pressure and his inefficiency gene just being something that's really bad for this roster going forward, especially if LeBron James will retire. And we're relying upon Austin to take, 16, 17 shots a night? There are going to be nights where he hits about 8, 9 of them, but there are going to be some 316 nights in the future, especially against good on-ball defensive teams. And there are teams that are going to be emerging that have that as a strength that may not be contenders right now. Like Portland, for example, is coming. Utah is probably going to acquire some players of that nature, probably get better defensively. They will be in the playoffs soon. Who knows what Memphis is going to build? Who knows what the Clippers are able to get, especially if they get Indy's pick. For all I know, they could have a guy like Keith Flemings or somebody like that on the team. You know, so it's a lot of stuff that's coming that may not be in place right now that we're going to have to react to. And if we're proactive in anticipating better teams being better defensively, we know we're going to need to be able to handle pressure better. We know that. The future of the Western Conference, in my opinion, is point of attack defensive talent and rim protection. If I'm just thinking ahead of time, that's what I'm saying. If you're not ready for a bunch of Tamani Kamaras and Jaden McDaniels coming at you, you're a damn fool. You know what I mean? If you're not ready for the Zion Williamson archetype coming at you several times over on different teams, good luck with that. Because you're going to need to be able to have those pieces in place with your construction in order to be able to defend and contend. And so that's what I'm saying. I just want people to understand what I know the NBA has coming down the pipeline. If you're not bigger, handling defensive pressure better, good ball handlers, efficient shooters, good offensive and defensive rebounding, you know, rim protection. If you don't have this stuff, you're about to get run over by teams who have that stuff. It's that simple. You know, because I think it's a damn good chance that a lot of these players of that ilk are going to fall into Western Conference hands, man. As I continue to do mock drafts of this particular draft, some of those players that have that archetype are likely going to be targeted by OKC, by Golden State, by Memphis. You hear what I'm saying? Like, those guys, I don't think they're going to go back east, man. San Antonio, some of those taller rim protector 250 dudes, I just got a weird feeling that most of them are going to come out west. And as they do, teams like the Lakers and others are going to have to be able to have answers for that. So I'm just telling you what I know. I do mock drafts every day, many of them a day, just to have an understanding of where I think people are going. This is one of the best drafts, and the Western Conference has the majority of the picks in the first round. I'm just being real with you. That's what's going on there. And so, yeah, man, we got work to do, Lakers. We got work to do. If we can try to get our hands on somebody like that, that would be great. You know, for me, my natural instinct is to grab bigger players. Ejiofor, I think his name is. He's going to likely be available at 25. Hyperactive, heavy, power forward-like dude who can rim protect. Vassir, I think his name is. Vesser, whatever his name is. Stretch 5, can do a little rim protection, but you get him more for his 7-foot ability to shoot the 3 from the center position, which can be very, very helpful. You know, who else? Like I said, I do think Quaintance is probably going to fall. If people are paying attention to what I'm paying attention to, he's probably going to fall. He may be available. Who else, man? I hope Morez is available. I doubt it very seriously. And, players like that. The 7'3" center out of Italy. I wish I could think of his name right now. But he may be available. That'd be an interesting piece for the Lakers. What's that other dude's name? I did homework on him yesterday. I forget his name. But he's a center out of, I forget. St. John's. No, I think that's Ejiofor. Whatever the case may be, there's a bunch of bigs. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. That the Lakers should have available for them at 25. My inclination is to get one of them dudes probably and just call it a day. But there's another world where the Lakers would be wise to grab. If a guy like Swain is available, grab Swain. Cam Carr is a no-brainer. If he's at 25, he should not fall past us. We need the length. We need the wing. So if Carr's available, that's the pick right there. There's a couple guys, man. Amari Allen. Damn, I wish I had these people's name in my head right now. But like it's a few of them, man. It's a few guys that I think are interesting. Jefferson, I like Jefferson a lot. I just don't know if he's not a redundancy to a degree, being a 4. But I think he can help us in a lot of areas. But his deficiencies could potentially hurt us. Evans, if his defense holds up, he's the exact type of knockdown shooter that we like. So that would be an interesting pick for the Lakers, although I don't expect for him to do a whole lot but shoot and defend. A guy like Yusufu, I think his name is, or something like that. He might be available. Yusufu, I can't remember what homie's name is, but the African, he's a big guard, big wing, kind of like a poor man's Ant-Man. But he has some defensive juice that I think could be very interesting on the wing for us. I do think he's a career backup in the future. So I kind of shy away from what I think his ceiling may be. He kind of has some of that Rui, head down, I'm not looking to pass too much, just go for mine type stuff. I don't really believe in that trait too much. But his body, his archetype would definitely be helpful in guarding wings and stuff like that. So Yusufu is interesting. Yeah, man, it's several guys. It's several guys that you can take a look at. Lakers. So hopefully, there's one more name that I'm thinking of, a guy from a college out here in California, Santa Clara. I can't think of what his name is, but he's also very interesting. I like him a lot. But I don't know, I like him a lot for us. That's the problem, because he's lacking in some athleticism. I think he would be a bit of a redundancy to our athleticism deficiency if you throw him in at the 3 next to Austin and Luka. And that's one of the problems. It's like, that's a good player that could potentially be available to us. But the problem is, now you're going to double down on being not so athletic. And I just don't think that's where the Lakers need to be headed. If you're going to officially move forward with Austin and Luka, the rest of the team gotta be athletic, man. Senat could be interesting, but he's a project. He ain't going to play probably for another 2 years. But he can be that, stretch 5, guardish, hybrid type player, which is going to, in the long run, extremely important when you're going up against the Wembys and the Chet Holmgren. So if Senat is available, I might use the 25 on him. He should be going before 25, but if he falls to us, it might be wise for us to invest in what he is. But he, like I said, he ain't going to help us right away. So you just have to chalk him up as a player you're not going to use. That might not be helpful. But, homie out of Santa Clara, I think he would be somebody I'd probably take at 25 if he's available. But I just understand that we would have to find some athleticism in other areas, man. Or we would be really, really under the rim a lot of the time, and I just don't think that's where we need to be headed with Austin and Luka. So, yeah, man, hopefully the Lakers make good decisions. I know they hired people for this draft. I know they did. New people that are going to want to make their mark on things. So we'll pay attention to what they decide to do. There will be ways to fill a need, and those needs may be the best player on the board at 25. So, we'll be keeping a close eye on them, man. We'll make a good decision with these picks. We have drafted poorly over the last several years. In fact, historically, we've drafted poorly. Let's just be real. And sometimes it was done when we knew damn well we shouldn't have did that. Nobody on draft day thought, even for 1 second, that Lonzo Ball was going to be a better player than Jason Tatum. Nobody thought that, dude. I didn't think that. You didn't think that. Nobody thought that. We just knew the hype surrounding Lonzo was going to put a lot of booties in seats. And Magic Johnson being a point guard was excited about a point guard. So we were all on board, but ain't nobody actually thought he was better than Jason Tatum, man. Nobody thought that. I don't want any of the new school kids who weren't around for that to think that people thought that. Nobody thought that. Everybody knew Jason Tatum was going to be better than him. Everybody knew that. We were just stupid enough to do what we thought made sense in other areas. They just figured Lonzo would be dope anyway. And he was. But, like, nobody thought he was going to be Jason Tatum. You know, let's be honest. We knew damn well we should have drafted Jason Tatum. Everybody in that room knew they should have drafted Jason Tatum. And so, that's what we did. We drafted Lonzo Ball, and we watched Jason go to our ops and win a championship, man. And, you know, these are the type of decisions the Lakers made. Brandon Ingram over Jaylen Brown, I don't know. I mean, I still feel great about Brandon Ingram, to be honest with you, but maybe not as much as I feel great about Jaylen Brown, right? Just being honest. We left Jokic on the board, although everybody else did too. But, like, these are just things like we didn't have the greatest scouting, you know, over the course of the last several years, several decades, really. We've historically drafted very poorly. So I'd like for us to change that starting right here. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Lakers keep fighting with this Thunder, you know. We get what we're up against, but we also respect who we are. We didn't win as many championships as we did, cowering in the face of teams that were better than us. We face those challenges head on, and we learn from every possession, and that's exactly what I expect every Laker team every year to do. And so that's what I'm tasking this team with doing, man. Keep fighting. BDL 44. Thank y'all for watching. Wow.